The pandemic is bringing unique challenges to members of the blind community. Things like keeping a safe distance and avoiding touching surfaces can be very difficult for people who are blind or visually impaired.
I have an eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa, and it's left me completely blind at this point.
Michael Guajardo has been adjusting
Just want to give it a good wiping.
to the new way of life.
It's kind of a nuisance trying to use these.
During the coronavirus pandemic,
Not having that touch sensitivity can be problematic.
Michael says he relies heavily on his sense of touch.
Having that ability to figure what things are tactily is like super important. So you can imagine if you're having to go outside the household and you're having to wear gloves, that really is it's difficult.
The CDC says hand washing is one of the best ways to remove germs, avoid getting sick, and preventing the spread of germs to others. Michael says he constantly washes his hands and uses hand sanitizer.
I really do have to rely on my sense of touch when I'm looking around for something on the table, or if I'm grabbing something out of the kitchen cabinet.
He's also keeping his distance. Michael works at the San Antonio Lighthouse for the blind and vision impaired. The president of the nonprofit says currently 50 employees are working from home, 100 are staying home and not working, and 350 are still working at the facility.
We've hired 2 people full-time to do nothing but wipe down every doorknob, every door, every flat surface.
Mike Gillum says there are many challenges for people who are blind.
If you're blind, you can't really see about social distancing. So how are you going to identify if you're 6 feet away from somebody? The sighted people have to be very, very careful in terms of that, because you've got blind people with canes going around.
Michael is taking it day by day and hopes things get back to normal soon.
It really requires you to have a completely different mindset when you're going out.
The National Federation of the Blind says additional challenges during the pandemic include getting transportation and buying groceries.
One thing we often say is that the disability community is the one community that anybody can become a part of at any time. If you live long enough, you're going to join the disability community. My husband and I are both blind, and we have 2 kids who are sighted. And one thing that we worry about a lot is, what if we start exhibiting symptoms of COVID? How do we go through the drive-through testing sites in an ethical way? We could use a ride-sharing service. You could call a family or a friend or a neighbor, but then you're putting them in danger. Transportation is difficult for blind people under the best of circumstances. We're seeing a lot of people with disabilities who are rationing their food because they have such difficulty getting to the grocery store. One of our key initiatives is that the Department of Education is considering offering states and local education agencies waivers to absolve them of their responsibilities under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's really disappointing that many school systems have adopted inaccessible online learning platforms. It really sends the message that educating students with disabilities is burdensome and optional, and that these students are a barrier to other students receiving remote learning, when the barrier is inaccessible technology and lack of innovation by the schools and the school districts. The numbers of people who are blind is definitely expected to increase with the aging of the baby boomer population. One thing about the COVID pandemic is, in some ways, it's really leveling the playing field for people with disabilities, because most of us are working from home right now. And historically, people with disabilities have often asked for the ability to work from home, and often they're told no. I'm hopeful that with this pandemic, that things that will help the baby boomers and things that will help people work from home more effectively will eventually help the entire disability community.